Chapter 19, Freedom of Assembly and Petition. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the center, and his supporters often used freedom of assembly to fight for equal opportunity for African Americans. Your learning objectives this week are to explain how the First Amendment guarantees the freedom of assembly and freedom to petition. Explain why freedom of assembly and freedom to petition are important in a representative democracy. Describe the protections and limitations of freedom of assembly. Describe the protections and limits of freedom of petition. Words to know. Assemble, to gather or meet. An assembly is a gathering of people. To join in a group in order to work together is to organize. Picket line is a group of people who protest something by marching in front of a building and carrying signs. Violent, showing or acting with strong force that causes harm. Unofficial, having no legal power. A riot, an out-of-control fight among many people. Organizing for change. Suppose you think the police chief in your town is doing a bad job. You think the chief should be fired. You talk to your neighbors, they think so too. If these people agree with you, maybe others will as well. You want to talk over your idea with other people in town. You decide to have an open meeting at the town hall. You hope everyone there will sign a petition. The petition will ask the city council to fire the police chief. After all, the city government is supposed to work for the people. If enough people want something, the city government should follow their wishes. Your neighbors say that they will not go to any public meetings. They think the police chief will not allow it. In addition, they are afraid the chief will arrest anyone who signs the petition. Can the police chief stop the meeting and arrest people for signing the petition? In some countries, he or she might be able to. However, in the United States, the First Amendment guarantees the people the freedom to assemble and freedom to petition. Freedom of assembly means that groups of people can meet peaceably whenever they want. People can hold public or private meetings to talk about their ideas and problems. They can organize themselves to work together. They can plan to work for changes. Freedom to petition means that people can ask their government in writing to take some action. People sign their names to the petition, then the government can see how many people support the idea. The freedoms of assembly and petition give people the right to take part in, and sometimes change, their government. Why freedom of assembly is important. Your right to speak freely is guaranteed by Constitution. However, it would not mean very much unless you can tell others your ideas and problems. You then learn new ideas by listening to others. Furthermore, only if you have the right to assemble can you make plans to solve the problems. Freedom of assembly gives you the right to organize with others into a larger group. The United States is a representative democracy. Your local representative may speak for thousands of people. Alone, you may not have much power if you ask your representatives to do something. Have you ever heard of the saying, there's more power in numbers? The larger your group, the more likely your group voice will be heard. Suppose you have 1,000 or more people in your group. You can be pretty sure your representatives will listen to your ideas. Why freedom of petition is important. The freedom to petition gives you the right to ask in writing for changes in government. It upholds the right of free speech and press. Suppose you make a speech. You criticize the city government for not having enough bus service. Many people agree with you, yet after the speech, no one in city government takes action. No one really knows how many people want more bus service. Suppose you write a petition and 30,000 people sign it. The people in government can read the petition. They can see that 30,000 people want more bus service. In that case, the government is much more likely to add more buses. Okay, in Chapter 11, you read about initiatives, referendums, and recalls. Each is a kind of petition that people can use to make new laws, stop new laws, and remove people from office. Freedom of assembly, protections and limits. Protections. The First Amendment gives people the right to hold any assembly or meeting, that is, as long as the meeting is peaceful and has no illegal purpose. No state or local government can pass laws against such meeting. The Supreme Court No one can stop people from going to meetings. In addition, no one can arrest people for attending meetings. The Supreme Court has made the First Amendment clear by deciding many cases about freedom of assembly. It is decided that the right of assembly covers more than just meetings. It also protects picket lines. Workers fighting for higher pay must stay off work and march in a picket line. The First Amendment protects marches, such as those used by people protesting the Vietnam War. It also protects other kinds of peaceful gatherings. People must be allowed to assemble in public places. Any group can meet in public meeting rooms, city parks, or streets. Shopping mall owners must let people assemble in open parts of the malls. Like free speech, free assembly would mean very little if it could not be done in public. Local governments must also protect the people who assemble. Suppose some people march against having a new shopping center built. Many other people might be in favor of the new center and become angry at the marchers. The local government must protect the marchers from harm or persecution. Limits. There are some constitutional limits on freedom of assembly. No one has the right to assemble for any illegal purpose, such as robbery or vandalism. The police can stop a violent assembly or one that tries to lead people to violent acts. A local government could put some limits on assembly in public places. It could make sure that marches, picket lines, and other assemblies stay peaceful. It can also make sure that these assemblies do not block traffic or keep people from getting to stores and offices. It can make fire safety rules that say how many people can gather safely in a meeting room. In addition, it could set fees for people who want to hold marches, meetings, or otherwise use land or buildings. All of these limits and fees must be reasonable. Freedom of petition, protections and limits. There are two kinds of petitions. In Chapter 11, you learned about referendums, recalls, and initiatives. These kind of petitions have legal power. If enough people sign them, the government has to follow through on what the petition asks. The other kind of petition is unofficial. It has no legal power. You read about unofficial petition on page 229. The petition for more bus service did not have, you read about unofficial petition. The petition for more bus service did not have legal power. When enough people sign an unofficial petition, the government is wise to notice and take action. If not, the voters can choose a new set of representatives to lead them. Protection. The freedom to petition is also protected by the Constitution and by case law from the Supreme Court decisions. You are guaranteed the right to sign petitions. You also have the right to go to public places to ask people to sign your petition. Limits. There are some limits on the freedom to petition. Usually, petitions must follow a set form. The rules must be followed, or the petition is no good. People who sign a petition must write their full names and addresses. They must live in the town or city where the petition was written. Furthermore, they can only sign it once. In some places, only registered voters can sign a petition. Landmark changes in the law, protecting peaceful marchers. In Chapter 9, you read about Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka in 1954. In that case, the Supreme Court decided that laws that set up separate schools for African Americans and white students were unconstitutional. Public schools were ordered to end such segregation as quickly as they could. However, 10 years later, many schools in the country were still segregated. In 1965, an entertainer and activist named Dick Gregory organized a number of people in Chicago. They said the schools that were there were moving too slowly in ending segregation. Gregory and his followers formed a group to talk to the mayor of Chicago, Richard Daley. They asked him to hire a new superintendent for the public schools. They asked for someone who would end segregation more quickly. The people in the group decided to organize a march to show how they felt. About 85 of them marched from City Hall to the mayor's home and formed a picket line. Then a crowd of Daley's followers began to gather. The crowd grew to about 1,000 people. These people yelled and tried to scare marchers to make them go away. The crowd of Mayor Daley's followers grew larger and became violent. They began throwing eggs and rocks at the marchers. The Chicago police had been watching the marchers and the crowd. The head of the police began to fear that a riot might start. He asked the marchers to end their assembly and go home. The marchers answered that they were doing nothing wrong. They continued with their protest march. The police said that the crowd of onlookers was getting very angry. They said they were afraid people might get hurt. The police then arrested Dick Gregory and many of his followers. The marchers were charged with breaking a Chicago city law. This law forbade any gathering that bothered other people or started riots. The case was heard in a local Chicago court. The marchers pointed out that they had been peaceful. They said they had a right to freedom of assembly. They had a right to march in protest of segregation. The police said that their job was to keep peace and to keep people from getting hurt. They thought the marchers were going to cause a riot. The local court found the marchers guilty. Some of the marchers took the case all the way to the Supreme Court. In 1969, the court unanimously overturned the local court's ruling, Gregory versus Chicago. The court agreed with the marchers that the march was protected by the First Amendment. The court said the peaceful assembly was lawful. It noted that the police had a responsibility to keep peace and keep people safe. The court also pointed out that the Daily supporters were causing trouble, not the marchers. It went on to say that the police had a responsibility to protect the marchers' right to assemble peaceably, even if their assembly annoyed others.